This is an overview video of all the Bells of Steel utility bars. I'm Kayvon, founder of Bells of Steel. Let's get into it. So what is utility bar? Utility bar is one of Bells of Steel's best-selling bar, and it's a multi-purpose bar. It's good for powerlifting, good for Olympic lifting, good for overall use, but it's not great for powerlifting, great for Olympic lifting, and not great for specific use case scenarios for certain types of specialty bars. So the common traits on it is passive knurling, dual markings for Olympic lifting and powerlifting, and bushings in the sleeves. And yeah, those are the main things that, the main similarities that they have. So why is it more of a multi-purpose as opposed to like great for powerlifting, great for Olympic lifting? So the downside about it for powerlifting is that the knurl is more passive, and typically powerlifters like a more aggressive knurl, like a bare naked powerlifting bar, which got like cheese grater knurl, helps you grip that bar, and you're never gonna miss a lift or deadlift from lack of knurling on that bar. Whereas on this one, being more passive, isn't as good at that grip and holding on that bar, but that can kind of be good, especially in general purpose training, because if you're shredding your hands up every day using a super aggressive knurl bar, then that's going to lead to discomfort, callus tears, things like that. So even if you are powerlifting, there's some merits to using a more passive knurling in your day-to-day training. The good part about it for powerlifting is it does have bushings in it, not needle bearings. And needle bearings are important for Olympic lifting, allows for greater rotation on the sleeve. So you want those sleeves rotating a lot when you're doing a clean or a snatch, and kind of transferring the force of those plates rotating into the sleeve and on there instead of into your body, into your wrists. But on powerlifting movements, you actually don't want a lot of rotation. You want it more fixed, because that rotation can almost hinder a certain lift if you have unnecessarily movement on the bar. Now you can use it for Olympic lifting. It still has enough spin on it to be used casually for Olympic lifting. But if you're all about clean jerk and snatch, or you're training for an Olympic lifting meet, then you might want to go with our Olympic lifting bar, which has those much better spin needle bearing sleeves. One other common spec that I mentioned was the dual Olympic and powerlifting markings. And what these markings are, when I say Olympic lifting and powerlifting, is these are the markings that you typically see on those types of bars. And in powerlifting, your hands in a bench press can't go past this inside one. And on Olympic lifting, I don't totally know the origin of why the Olympic lifting one is over there. Maybe it's for the clean, because you can certainly snatch as wide as you want, but maybe the clean limit is over there. But that is like the origin of why those markings are Olympic lifting and powerlifting. And the other thing that you won't see too common in multi-purpose training bars is the middle knurl, but because it is a more passive knurl on this bar, I decided to include the middle knurl because I felt having it is good extra grip when you're squatting. The detractor is that some people feel the middle knurl can beat up your chest when you're doing a lot of cleans. But with how passive this knurling is, I don't think that's going to be a factor, and because it's being used for Olympic lifting and powerlifting, I left it in. So the other common trait on our utility bars is that they're 28.5 millimeter shaft diameter. So why 28.5? Well, 28 millimeter is the Olympic lifting competition standard diameter of a bar, so a little bit thinner, and 29 millimeter is the competition standard powerlifting bar. Although I actually think they might allow 28.5, but I'm not totally sure, but typically it's 29 millimeter used in competition. So it's a nice blend between the two, very common in multi-purpose bars, and again, a good blend for, not the best for powerlifting, not the best for Olympic lifting, but good for both. Now I'm going to break down each one. First, I'm going to start with the OG, the classic utility bar. This is the first one that we ever had. So again, all of them have the same powerlifting and Olympic lifting marks, passive knurl, etc. This one has a black zinc shaft and white zinc sleeves, and it is your standard weight and length of a competition bar. So powerlifting and Olympic lifting, same 20 kgs, 44 pounds. People say 45 pounds, but I think technically it's 44. And 7 feet long, technically 220 centimeters long length. So that's our most popular one and the most common one. This is the Juno Bar, and the Juno Bar is the women's version of the utility bar. And I'm gonna say women's version, I didn't invent these specs, okay? So what entails a woman's bar is that in the IWF, the International Weightlifting Federation, in the Olympics, there's a slightly different bar for women than there are men. It's slightly thinner at 25 millimeter as opposed to the utility bar, which is 28.5 millimeter. Actually, men's competition Olympic lifting bar is 28 millimeter, and men's competition, actually powerlifting is the same. It's 29 millimeter for men or women. But in Olympic lifting, the women's bars are 25 millimeter and men's are 28 millimeter. Women's bars are also 15 kg instead of 20 kg and a little bit shorter as well. So this takes those specs from a Olympic weightlifting barbell women's version and puts it into the utility bar with all those same things I mentioned that are common in the utility bars. The more passive knurling, the dual powerlifting and Olympic lifting marks, the black zinc shaft coating, the white zinc sleeves, the bushings, and yeah, so basically the same thing, just formatted into a women's spec bar. It's called the Juno Bar. Obviously Juno, the goddess of women or goddess of marriage or something, but it's also my daughter's name. My daughter's named Juno, so I named it after her. And this is the blue Cerakote utility bar. And now the specs of this are identical to the utility bar. The only difference is the finish. And we do kind of have rotating different finishes, shaft and sleeve for these utility bars. But in this case, it's a blue Cerakote shaft and a black Cerakote sleeve. So what is Cerakote, the difference? Well, obviously you can get like super cool, vibrant, nice colors. It is more expensive. It's a more expensive finish. I would argue the chip resistance is pretty close to the same as a black zinc, but it gives you that cool pop and that nice color without affecting like the knurl too much or the grip. And yeah, really popular bar, this one. We do put Cerakote on the sleeves on this particular model. We are starting to use models that don't have the Cerakote on the sleeve and doing them titanized instead. And the reason is that because Cerakote isn't, it chips more on the sleeves. When you put those plates on and off, it'll start chipping on the sleeves faster than it would, say like a white zinc or a chrome sleeve finish. This is the short rackable utility bar, and now the specs on this are very close to the classic utility bar, with the core difference obviously being the length and sleeve length. And now why would you want a shorter utility bar? Well, there's a few reasons. One, it's lighter weight, it's shorter, it's better for storage, it's a little bit cheaper, and you'll sometimes see them being used in like different cross-training style competitions, the shorter ones. The downside of it, obviously, is that it's shorter. It's not a classic lifting bar. And then on this one, because it's short and it's rackable, we had to take that length off of the sleeves. So the sleeves are a lot shorter than a regular utility bar, and you're probably only going to get, depending on the type of bumpers you have, maybe 2 with some collars. You squeeze them on. Depends if you have chrome or you have calibrated Olympic lifting plates. But yeah, much shorter shaft diameter. Sometimes people get this as like a secondary bar in their gym. Again, cheaper, easier storage, and the weight too. So just some kind of perks on there. But the everything else lines up. Diameter, coating is black zinc. The knurl marks are, even though it's a shorter shaft, the powerlifting and weightlifting marks are still in the same position relative to even being on a shorter shaft. This is the short utility bar that's not rackable. So much like the rackable short utility bar, benefits of this are it's shorter, it's lighter, it's cheaper, it's easier to store. But other than that, it has almost identical specs. Both of these bars are black zinc shaft and black zinc sleeves, and 28.5 millimeter diameter. And then again, those knurl markings, even though it's a shorter shaft, still line up. The Olympic lifting and powerlifting markings still line up on the regular full-size utility bar. Now, why you would want this one instead of an actually rackable one is because, unlike the rackable utility bar, we kept they're actually pretty similar length and weight, but rather than cutting down the sleeves, we cut down the shaft and we left the sleeves a longer length, not quite the same length as a utility bar, but longer than the short rackable utility bar. And that allows you to, of course, load more plates on there. You could squeeze 3 full-size bumper plates on there, probably like a crumb, even a big, thick, wide one on that. And again, you'll see these ones being used in different cross-training competitions. So yeah, you kind of get to choose. Do I want less sleeve length, or do I want the sleeve length but not be able to be rackable? And yeah, that's kind of like the key points of that. So closing thoughts, which one to pick? What's my favorite? I think it would be hard pressed to argue to get a shorter one as your primary bar. I think most people are buying a full-size bar, utility bar, Juno Bar, or the Cerakote coated ones or different colored ones, and then buying an additional shorter bar for, you know, extra accessories, landmine work, stuff like that. And it comes in surprisingly handy having 2 bars in your gym. Which one to choose out of the main ones? Honestly, you know, between these two, it's purely aesthetic, right? Having a good-looking, coordinated home gym is becoming more of a thing as opposed to the old days of just like, you know, your home gym is just this rotten dungeon stuck into the corner of your basement. People are treating it with kind of the same input that they would any other room in their house, and you know, people care about the aesthetics in their dining room, their living room, what they have in there. So I guess kind of similar vein for your home gym. So if you care about the aesthetics and you want a certain look, you're going to want to go with this. If you're a woman prepping for a IWF weightlifting, or you want to compete in weightlifting one day and you want that smaller bar, lighter bar that'll match up to what you're going to see in a meet, then you're going to want to go with the Juno Bar. Or even if you just prefer like a thinner, lighter bar, you know, get yourself a Juno Bar. And then yeah, between these two, honestly, these ones, my pick would definitely be the rackable one. I think when you're doing accessory work, it's nice to have that option, or if you're gonna get a secondary bar, it's nice to have that option to be able to rack it, right? Like have your primary bar set up, you know, for a bench, and maybe you're doing a drop set and you've got another mini bar set up for lighter and doing, you know, repping out like a drop set or whatever. I just think that versatility of being able to make it rackable is worth those shorter sleeves. But if you just want yourself a lighter secondary bar, you're not going to rack it, and you are going to maybe do some heavy deadlifts on it. Maybe your primary bar is reserved for your squatting, and your secondary bar is reserved for deadlifting. It's never going to see the light of day being racked. Then you're going to want to go with that one, or just buy all of them. That would be great too. I'm Kayvon, founder of Bells of Steel. I hope you loved that video. And if you want to check out any more of our products or follow us on social media, click the links below in the description and let the gains begin.